USAID has been exposed as one of the biggest U.S. scandals for funding every kind of corruption, including influencing foreign elections. That is, the U.S. government performed through these charities what they would never allow here at home. They would call it completely unconstitutional. Welcome to the Doug TNAPLE channel as we eviscerate USA. We have a big video, but I also want to set it up first with this. This is Samantha Power, the former administrator of the USAID, proudly highlighting the agency's role in influencing, quote, strategically important elections, unquote, by using, quote, Democratic Elections Fund, unquote. She also discusses how USAID funds journalists, not only to report the news, but also to fact check incoming information. Here's the video.
Authoritarians have grown increasingly clever in manipulating elections, something that we see them do in their own countries, but often also abroad, as we know too well. In the 2020s, that's where we are right now, most elections are not stolen by flagrantly stuffing ballot boxes or throwing opponents in jail.
She literally just said that they don't throw opponents in jail, and they tried to throw Trump in jail. Where have you been, Samantha Powers?
Discredited or tilted in an incumbent's favor, often years before Election Day. Contemporary tactics like cyber hacks, false information on social media, and questionable regulations have undermined elections all over the world. USAID and other development agencies have supported elections for decades, but we have not always kept up with these pernicious methods, it's fair to say. That's why since the Summit for Democracy, we have gathered the world's leading organizations that support electoral integrity, some of whom are here today, both governmental and non-governmental, to form a coalition for securing election integrity, which will establish a consistent set of norms for what constitutes a free and fair election in 2022.
Do you trust a Democrat on the dole telling you that you can trust us, our party, and now we know that at USAID, over 90% of them gave to Biden or Kamala Harris. Do you trust them with anyone's elections, even our own? The hubris that they're going to, in the name of not imprisoning an opponent, and none of this struck her as strange what's happening in our own country. Let me read this real quick. This is I meme, therefore I am. USAID has directed nearly $500 million into the secretive U.S. government-funded NGO Internews Network. The organization has collaborated with 4,291 media outlets, produced 4,799 hours of broadcasts in a single year, reaching up to 778 million people. That is a mass media propaganda campaign by this, and trained over 9,000 journalists as of 2023. That's Democrats training journalists. Are they training them to be unbiased? You already hear what they say about misinformation. Misinformation is anything that Elon Musk says, and the truth is anything reported on CNN, no matter how much it's been proven false in the past. IN has also supported social media censorship initiatives. Furthermore, USAID has funded and trained thousands of lawyers, judges, and election workers, conducted polls questioning election legitimacy, published reports alleging fraud, and playing a role in overseeing new elections, both domestically and abroad. Domestically, that is our elections, among other activities. My question is, why do we have any reason to trust a Democrat organization like USAID? I know it's not officially Democrat in the name, but if you pack it with over 90% Democrat government bureaucrats, probably more like 95%, maybe even 99%, and you have them training judges and poll workers and now in news outlets, including domestically. This is a giant left-wing Democrat, very well funded, extremely well funded, like all the money they would need to manipulate 778 million people around the world. We've also found out that they funded the BBC. That's British Broadcasting. We funded that. Remember, the BBC they started bringing some of their officials over here to influence our elections. They said that in public to interfere with elections, and Elon Musk called them out. So this is a one-party, very weird. We should be thrilled that this lady, Samantha Power, got canned.
And we'll draw from our new Defending Democratic Elections Fund to help strategically important elections meet these agreed standards throughout the election cycle. Finally, we must shine a light on the dark corners where corruption thrives and oligarchs hide their stolen wealth.
They hide it in USAID. George Soros gave donations to USAID, then USAID turned around and helped his fund by hundreds of millions of dollars.
Traditionally, the fight against corruption has occurred within borders, supporting the institutions and reformers fighting for transparency and accountability.
Transparency on Russiagate, transparency on Hunter Biden's laptop, transparency. Where's the transparency on the certain island list that Dick Durbin is blocking to get to keep from going public? Where's the transparency? There's none. There's absolutely none. The collusion between American media and the Biden administration, there's no desire for them to root that out. So all these are just words. I'm shocked that this is coming from this Democrat apparatchik, because now we've seen the receipts of this whole organization. All the receipts, they're almost all political, and all of the political ones, they're all Democrat. There's no political receipts in USAID that are like, oh, that's so Republican. It's political, like funding Politico, the online magazine, and giving 700 free subscriptions to government workers at a cost of $8 million. There's no reciprocal of that. There's no other side of that, a counterpoint to that, of a right-wing establishment being subscribed to and funded by the government. Everything leans Democrat. So I would normally say, oh, this is a conspiracy. You can't blame them and say whatever. But when all of the evidence always just so happens to benefit one side and just so happen to call out the other side, I don't believe you. I don't believe this lady. I'm going to go so far as to say she's lying.
But sophisticated corruption operations now, of course, increasingly cross borders. They seek out weaknesses in the global financial and regulatory systems to launder wealth and hide ill-gotten gains.
And that was done by Sam Bankman-Fried with his FTX crypto. And Sam Bankman-Fried laundered that money. His two elite educated parents out at Stanford, I believe it is, in the Bay Area, he funded $2 billion into mostly Democrat candidates. And again, he was largely covered up until the right-wing media called it out so much they had to do something about it.
This new reality requires USAID to transform its anti-corruption work, to be savvier, and to be less siloed by country. We are building coalitions of reformers across borders, sectors, and ideologies.
Defunded.
Nowhere is this more critical than in connecting investigative journalists across countries and regions to follow the flow of illicit assets. In the past, this work focused on training these journalists in investigatory techniques, in gathering evidence, in fact-checking to support their investigations within a country.
Fact-checking, I'll translate that for you. It means propaganda in putting out a preferred political narrative. That's how you use fact checks by Democrats. It's been proven over and over.
Again, that work is still absolutely mission critical, but it isn't sufficient. So we have launched regional initiatives, allowing journalists to work together across borders to piece together vast corruption scandals that span the globe.
What happened is USAID, AID, was paid so much money over so much time. And we've done a few videos on this, how it got corrupted in the 90s under the Clinton administration. But this exists all the way back to the JFK days in the 60s. They were using this to craft other countries and manipulate other countries, which was kind of considered, oh, this is normal election manipulation, normal election interference. Then they were able to step it up because they've gotten so many billions and billions and billions of dollars over the year that they don't have to just worry about country by country elections. They can afford to go more granular down to states and cities in other countries.
As we saw in the Panama and Pandora Papers. And in carrying out that work, today investigative journalists have as much to fear from lawsuits across jurisdictions as they arguably do from police or the oligarchs themselves. Last fall, we announced the creation of an insurance fund for investigative journalists.
Now, she just mentioned that journalists have something to fear, and that's lawsuits. I'm going to totally blow her open on this because she has no interest in investigating these lawsuits that are manipulating journalists. We all know of what's the most famous lawsuit you can think of in politics against journalists? It's the Dominion machine. And I'm not going to weigh in on guilt or innocence. I'm only saying it was Dominion that launched the biggest billion-dollar payout lawsuit, was what they charged Fox News with, a journalist organization specifically calling out Tucker and I think Sean Hannity. It's why Tucker ended up leaving that job. But that biggest example, by this time that she made this speech, she would have known about it. And to them, nothing to see.
It's now called Reporters Mutual. What we've learned through an actuarial study since the launch is that things are even worse than we suspected. Investigative journalists are sued at 3 times the rate of all other journalists.
I just want to know what the split is between Democrats and Republicans on that, on which party's getting sued more, especially in America.
They're thus basically uninsurable on the commercial market. When I met with Filipino investigative journalist Maria Ressa, she told me that she had been hit with 22 new legal cases since she won the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize. Our new fund, which will come online next year, will provide insurance to cover the cost of defending journalists and media organizations from legal harassment.
Not our business, not our place, and it is now happily defunded. We're not paying for that garbage anymore. I don't even know if I'd trust Republicans. I don't want to give them billions of dollars to do this in other countries either. It's not our place. I really don't believe in this redistribution of American wealth. That's our tax dollars. That's ours. And our government is extracting it from us and saying we have to go and fund a giant slush of lawyers to defend Filipino journalists. How about defend American journalists like Fox News? How about defending American journalists like this channel from being censored or shut down? No interest. So outside of that, do not take my taxes. I am thrilled and dancing in the streets that these people got fired, shut down. It's very hard to make a case for them. I feel bad. I think, food programs that save people's lives and starve them, fine. But when only 2% of the money or 4% of the money is going to the kids and 20% of it is going to some administration fees to administrate, which is a lot of what a lot of these NGOs are looking like, shut it down. What do you guys think? I'm Doug in exile.